So these are the journal guidelines. Writing a handwritten chronological account of every time you ever used, whether large or small. Well, because we tend to judge whether it's good or bad or whether it's a big deal or not. But if we knew whether it was a big deal or not, we wouldn't need to write a journal in the first place. So we let the group decide what's a big deal, what's insignificant, what's significant. We look at before and after baptism. Now, the only thing that should be in there is an account, chronological account. Again, we're looking for progression, but a chronological account of every time you ever remember using. Some people will say, well, what if I don't remember? Well, amen. You're not accountable for that. But sometimes people remember things like, I remember drinking, and then I remember waking up in the lawn or at some stranger's house or something like that. That counts. It's not, what if I don't remember what happened during, like if you remember the incident, but you blacked out, there's a lot of fear. There's a lot of emotions that go with that. And so we need to write about those situations because the purpose of the journal is to connect to the pain we cause ourselves and others. And so we write this account, we include nicotine, and we go from the first time to the very last time we ever used. Every single time we remember to the best of our ability. If you don't remember it, amen, you're fine. Don't purposely leave anything out. So don't like think about it and go, no, that's too embarrassing. That's too small. That's too big, whatever, and then leave it out. Now, as you write, there's a format. Every entry should look like this. What did you use? What happened when you used it? And then how did you feel as a result of the consequences? Some of those feelings, they need to be emotional words, right? So mad, glad, sad, afraid, or embarrassed. But if we start at the beginning, everyone should use the technical name of the drug, not the street name, or trying to change our thinking. We don't want to glorify the drug. And so we use like, what do we use? Alcohol, cannabis, methamphetamine, psilocybin, whatever it is you used. Then what happened after you put it in you? What's the aftermath of your choice to use? So some people want to write a lot about, well, they went to their friend's house and they pulled something out. And in a sense, we're justifying why we are using. Well, the circumstances dictated through peer pressure that I use, and I had to get along with it. But I mean, you can't just not use. But okay, no, I just want to know what happened once you put it in you. That's it. Once the chemical reaction started, in a sense. And then how'd you feel as a result of what happened? How do you feel as a result of the consequences? Now, some consequences are instant. Other consequences take time. All right. For example, I was using meth. I had a bunch of teens in my truck. I was 18 at the time. These guys were minors. I get arrested. That lasted 6 months because I go to jail for 5 days. The consequences are from that I was sentenced to 120 days in jail. If I ever got caught again, I ended up getting caught. I do 47 days in LA County Jail. You see how that all, like, it just kind of dominoes. So in a sense, from that one event, what happened is all the dominoes that kind of fell after that. And so I want to talk about those things in the what happened part. And then how do I feel? How did I feel as a result of going to jail? Man, I was ashamed. I went to jail. So I was embarrassed when I got finally caught. I remember crying. I'm in the holding cell. I'm crying around all these thugs. And then I'm scared because I'm crying because I'm going to go to jail for 4 months. You know what I'm saying? So if we play that all the way to the end, there's a whole lot of emotions involved in this thing. The journal, it should be written from beginning to end in one sitting. Okay, so this is the ideal. It's best to do it in one sitting. So how do we advise somebody write their journal in one sitting? That's challenging, right? Well, what I suggest is, hopefully you, as every good disciple, has a calendar, because we have jobs, we have ministries to run, we have discipling times to meet with, meetings of the body. There's all these different things. Hopefully you have a schedule. What I encourage is either on a Sunday night or a Monday night that you block out 4 hours, and you don't have to use the whole 4 hours. But if you use the whole 4 hours, you're likely writing too much, to be honest. But that you block out 4 hours. You tell your discipling partner, hey, Monday night, I need to work on my journal. Do we have any hot studies? Make sure it's, you're working with your ministry leader. You block out that 4 hours and you just sit down with a blank journal. you pray. And I would even have these, I had to write 1, 2, 3 at the top of my journal because I tend to I think too much. I'm too smart for my own good. And I start going into things like, just all these tangents versus just doing what I'm supposed to do. So I had to write 1, 2, 3. And I remember every entry, I just go, okay, 1, 2, 3, what I used, what happened, how I felt. I just wrote, right? So block off that 4 hours to give yourself plenty of time to complete it. Begin with the first time you ever used and continue to recall every instance after that, writing in the format above, right? After you write your journal, close it. Don't read it again until you read it in groups. So don't go through it throughout the week, like thumbing through it, like, it's a scrapbook or something like that. Don't do that. That's not going to help you. So what's not in a journal? It's not your life story. It's not an autobiography. It's not an essay. I'm not here to grade your grammar. It doesn't matter whether it's in paragraph form. I don't even really care about punctuation. I do care that you use the word I. I did blah, blah, blah. I went and did this. It has to be sometimes we just went to the store. Okay, put the I in there. Like, we're trying to avoid that little itty bitty bit of pain, but we need to take ownership of our choices. Part of what we do with CRs, we blame other people, but we don't just take ownership of our choices. So I need to put I in there. Don't mention God. Now, what do you mean? Well, because most of the time, when you were using, you weren't thinking about God. I mean, if there's a legitimate reason, but sometimes at the end, there's like, some people like to write a little paragraph about how they finally came to faith and like God rescued them and blah, blah, blah. That's not the journal. You don't need that. I believe that's true. And it's really encouraging to know, but it's not part of it. After you became a disciple, you may be able to say, man, I immediately realized I betrayed God. But, that's probably the extent of how you should mention God. Most of us weren't thinking of God during our use. So don't include him. No blaming, right? You chose to use. Don't blame other people. Don't justify. I had a hard day at work, so I used, right? My girlfriend got mad at me, so I drank. Don't use slang words. Do the best you can not to glorify it. Sometimes we just don't know the real word for whatever it is we're doing. That's fine. Just put whatever, do your best. I'm not looking for scientific terms. Do your best, right? I'm not a real stickler on it necessarily. I just prefer not to, I just prefer not to get into that. And then, other addictions such as gambling, food, sex, etc. You can include these only if it was combined with your use of drugs or alcohol. All right. So if you're like, man, I overate, like, cool, but it can't be gambling. I went to the casino, blah, blah, blah. Pornography. I went to that's not what we're here to look at. Substance abuse, chemical addictions only. And then you have to have your journal completed in order to participate in group. Right. So if this is your first week, I don't expect you to have your journal today, unless you were told to. I think Zajay and Jarius, you guys were given direction to do your journal. I think so. So if that's the case, then amen. But we'll talk about that here in just a second. So that's really the journal guidelines. They're very simple. They're straightforward in every way. There may be some questions, but I expect people to be responsible enough to ask those questions as we go forward. Those are the guidelines. Are there any questions?